In the U.S., Donald Trump put out a tweet this morning suggesting the presidential election, which, as you know, is coming up in less than 100 days, be delayed over mail-in voting. CBC's Katie Simpson is tracking the story live from Washington. What exactly is the U.S. president suggesting, Katie?
Well, so Hannah, let's walk Canadians through this. Here is the context, the bigger picture context. It's 8:46 in the morning. Really bad GDP numbers had just been released down here in the United States 16 minutes earlier, showing that the American economy had slowed down significantly in the second quarter because of coronavirus. Not surprising, but numbers that are still devastating nonetheless. Those numbers came out at 8:30. 8:46, the president, as all of this news coverage around this issue, around the slowing economy, is on the mainstream American News Network, the president fires off a tweet that really upended the daily news cycle and is getting a lot of attention down here. Let's bring it on up. With universal mail-in voting, not absentee voting, which is good, 2020 will be the most inaccurate and fraudulent election in history. It will be a great embarrassment to the USA. Delay the election until people can properly, securely, and safely vote, he asks. So there are a couple of things we're going to break down about that tweet. First, we're going to start about delaying the election. The president does not have the power to change the election date. It is protected by the Constitution. This morning, after that tweet was published, Republicans and Democrats, lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, have soundly and squarely rejected the idea. A lot of Republicans very firmly saying the election will be November 3rd. Full stop. So it's not something that the president can do. The other concern that the president has repeatedly raised is about mail-in voter fraud. He's very clear to distinguish there's no problem with absentee voting because absentee voting is a practice that he has participated in, voting in Florida when he was not actually in the state. He has made these claims based on unfounded concerns about the potential for widespread mail-in voter fraud if the states mail out ballots to voters and then send them in, rather than absentee voting, where someone requests a ballot for a reason in some cases and then sends it back in. In the United States, the institution MIT took a look at the concerns around mail-in voter fraud. States have been doing it for more than 20 years, and 250 million or so votes have been cast over those last 20 years. And of all those votes cast, there have just been 143 cases where people have been convicted for mail fraud, voter mail fraud, in relation to that. So it is not a practice that is an issue here in the United States. However, the president has repeatedly gone after that issue because traditionally Republican candidates have done not as well in elections when the turnout is bigger. And again, because of coronavirus concerns, that's one reason people don't want to go to the polls. And so it's part of a bigger, much more complex issue. We're doing a special on voter fraud that will be, we did a special piece that will air on Monday on the National and Monday at World at 6. So we have lots of that coming up.
Excellent, and look forward to it. And let's just go a little bit further in this. I mean, Trump has no authority. The Oval Office has no authority to delay the election. But why do you think he could be focusing on this today?
There are a couple of big reasons. One, as I mentioned, the context around the economy. The president has really hinged his hopes to re-election before the pandemic began on a strong U.S. economy. It had been doing so well with records, job numbers, record employment rates here in the United States. Donald Trump had really hoped that those strong numbers would propel him into a second term. But again, the pandemic has upended much of that. Another thing to raise, today is the funeral for civil rights icon John Lewis. And a number of former presidents are speaking today publicly and will get a significant amount of attention. George Bush has spoken, Bill Clinton has spoken, Nancy Pelosi, who is the Speaker of the House, just spoke, and we're expecting Barack Obama to speak as well. Donald Trump has often demonstrated that he gets frustrated when he gets compared to Barack Obama. So at a time when Barack Obama is going to be in the spotlight, creating that contrast between his style of speaking publicly and offering a message of calm and unity, contrast that with the messages that the president has really leaned into, particularly over the past few months during the pandemic. That's a contrast that the president has illustrated isn't necessarily something that he likes. So that could be one issue. The president, again, if we take him at his word, may just be very, very concerned about mail voter fraud and has deep concerns that the U.S. election is going to be upended that way. And there's one other thing to take into context here is that Donald Trump in national polls is falling behind his Democratic challenger, Joe Biden. He even went to Texas yesterday, which is traditionally safe Republican territory, because according to local polls there, a Morning Consult poll, he's trailing Joe Biden there by 2 points, which is really a staggering thought that in safe Republican Texas, the president, a Republican incumbent, is facing an uphill battle.
We'll talk again. Thank you, Katie. CBC's Katie Simpson in Washington.